I'm Ashlin Hadden. I'm the owner of Ashlin Hadden Insurance Agency. This is my second career. I started as a branch manager in banking for a little while. Moved from the Chicagoland area back down to Indianapolis. I started my career with Liberty Mutual. I went in, my mother-in-law at the time had said, hey, there's a job opening at Liberty Mutual. Do you want to go sell insurance? And I was like, I don't want to be a used car salesman. No, thank you. And she's like, my girlfriend's got the job, so just go apply, take a look, and if you don't like it, that's fine. So I went and I did the interview, and the guy that was interviewing me said that this was a man's industry. You could never make anything of yourself. You're not going to be able to sell insurance. So I said, I'll take the job. Started 2 weeks later. I was the Rookie of the Year, top rep in the state, third in the entire company. Accepted my award on stage. Sent him a picture with my finger and said, you can't sell insurance now. So I worked for Liberty Mutual for several years. The CEO of Liberty Mutual came out and bought a $35 million jet. And I looked at my book of business and what I've done for the last 3 years with him and said, I just fueled his jet for an entire year. If I'm going to work 18 hours a day, I'm going to work for myself. So I left Liberty Mutual, joined a brokerage firm with Valdico. Was with Valdico for about a year, and then I went completely out on my own. So I am my own agency, I have my own contracts. I have 40-some carriers that I write with now. Why did I get into e-commerce? So Chris Wilkie from FBA Masters Facebook group was one of my personal clients. He came to me and said, hey, Amazon's changing rules and we got to have this general liability policy. Is it something that you can do? And I said no, because one, there's no money in it. Two, it's going to take a really long time. And three, I just don't know anything about it. So he kept bugging me. And I was like, all right, Chris, I'll see what I can do. So I looked around to some carriers. Took me a couple of months to find a company that actually would allow e-commerce sellers. Sold a policy to him, and he's like, by the way, I have this Facebook group that's got 30,000 people in it. Can I share your information? I'm like, all right, $50 times 30,000. Okay, I think this is worth my time now. Yep, go ahead. So he started sharing my information with that group, and then I really just started to get to know you guys as sellers. And the struggles that you're having trying to find proper insurance and find somebody who knows what you're doing and a carrier who knows what you're doing. So you guys really were redheaded stepchildren, and I kind of just embraced your culture and embraced like what you guys do here, and loved, you know, the meetups and the conferences and things like that. So I kind of just fell in love with your community, and this is a majority of what I do now is e-commerce. So I still do, you know, mom and pop shops, brick and mortars, that kind of stuff, but a lot of it starts here in the e-com world. I work with Amazon, eBay, Etsy, Wayfair, people looking to get into Bed Bath & Beyond, Walmart, Jet, those types of things. People who are just RAOA and wholesale up to private labelers. So one of my biggest clients has a $40 million contract with Nickelodeon. So anywhere from somebody just starting out to a multi-million-dollar private label company. My philosophy is simple. You've worked hard to build your business. I'm going to work even harder to keep it protected. So agenda, we're going to play a game that you guys are going to win because there's only a few of you. What Amazon requires, rumor has it, and then what's the worst that can happen. So keep calm, it's just a tip. So take a look through this, and I want you to guess how much the tip of this finger is worth. So this client was a 30-year-old female. She purchased a watermelon cutter from Amazon. As she was cutting her watermelon, the handle broke off and cut the tip of her finger off. Now, she was RA, she was not private label, so her thought was she wasn't held responsible for the injuries. What do you think the tip of the finger is worth? Okay. $500,000? 200,000? I don't know if I can get it all the way back there. Okay, what do you think? 3 million? Okay, so again, she was not held responsible, but ooh, good catch. She was not held responsible, but we did have to defend her to get her name dropped from the lawsuit. So it's $37,000 just to get her name dropped from the lawsuit. So she was not held liable for the $500,000, $1 million, $2 million. It was, Yes, you're right, you're not held responsible, but we defend you, we get your name dropped from the lawsuit, and it costs the insurance company $37,000 to hire the attorney and to get her off of here. So how much is my hip worth? This is a fun one. So a 63-year-old male bought something online that was shipped to their house. UPS placed the box in front of the gentleman's door. Gentleman does not see the box, opens the door, trips over the box, breaks his hip, and breaks his clavicle. He sues Amazon, he sues our client, and he sues UPS. How much do you think it costs to defend him? Doesn't it? $67,000 to defend him from the lawsuit. So we'll give you some more candy in the back. So again, a lot of the times I hear, well, I don't sell anything risky, or I don't need insurance. Well, unless you have $63,000 in your bank account to hire an attorney to defend yourself, this is a very viable option. I mean, this could actually happen. So what does Amazon require? If you could just read the rules, that would be great, because it's in the terms of service and you signed the terms of service. But in the past, you used to need 3 months of consecutive sales of $10,000 or more. And then this happened. You guys remember this? Where the hoverboard exploded? So the hoverboard exploded in the garage. There was children upstairs that had to escape out of the top window. The client sued for $30 million for a house and a hoverboard. So who did they sue? You can see, I don't know if the pointer works, but you can see all of those lists up there. Amazon, on all of Amazon's corporates and all of that stuff. And right here at the bottom is the seller. So they were listed in that lawsuit too. So now, what does Amazon require now? Go ahead. Read. No. Blah, 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 buy a liability policy. That's what they want you to do. You're required to have $1 million liability policy. So if something happens and Amazon gets sued, Amazon's got big pocketbooks. They can self-insure themselves. But do you? Do you have $1 million sitting around? Do you have a $500,000 sitting around? You have $76,000 sitting around, okay? They want you to have $1 million policy. All the rest of that crap, leave that up to your agent. He or she can help you with that. And if they don't understand that, then you don't have the right agent. So let's kind of break down what liability is. So general liability is going to help pay for lawyer fees, court costs, if you harm someone or someone's personal property. So in that situation with the house, that was someone's personal property. That was their entire house and all of their belongings. The watermelon cutter is someone's physical, so that you harm someone physically. That's what the general liability policy is going to cover. This is America. People sue everyone for every little thing, and they list a bunch of people to throw it on the wall and see what sticks. So that's what you need. So who needs this? If you're RA, OA, wholesaler, private label, all of those types of avenues need the general liability policy. Terms of service does not say, hey, you need a liability policy only if you're private label. You need a policy for all three of them. Big thing right now is IP issues. If you get sued for an IP, this policy could help you. So I don't know about you, but I don't think I can afford to take on Nike, Apple, or Disney, any of those types of people. This policy would help defend you if you actually get sued for an IP issue. Rumor has it, right now Amazon says that you're required to have the policy. They're not policing it. They're not kicking people off and suspending people for not having the certificate of insurance uploaded. We do hear in 2018 that they are going to make an announcement that the certificate of insurance is going to be required to be uploaded into Seller Central, or you'll be suspended. So we don't know when that's coming, but we do hear that they're going to make an announcement in 2018. So a bunch of other stuff. That was the one thing that Amazon requires. This is the other stuff to kind of help protect your assets. Product liability. Product liability is going to protect you if you have an issue with the actual physical goods of the product. if there's a malfunction or a defect, that's like the handle of the watermelon cutter, it's going to go under your product's liability. Layman's term, it's going to protect you and your business if there's a defect or a bad design. Stock, stored products, and business personal property. A lot of my clients say, well, I've got $40,000 in stock in my basement, but my homeowner's insurance will cover that. Absolutely not. Your homeowner's is not going to cover your business personal property unless you can explain that you've got 30,000 toothbrushes because you like to brush your teeth with a new toothbrush every single time. They're not going to cover it. They're going to know it's for business. Most insurance carriers have an exclusion for this, so make sure if you think it's covered to check your declarations page to see if it is. So you can actually add this extension to your general liability policy to cover those products, even at a third location, which we'll talk about later. Business personal property in transit. Either you RA or what do you guys? Are you OA, RA, private label? Or both? Private label. Okay, and what are you? Okay, so PLs you're probably not as much, but you too. If you're out sourcing and you end up, let's say you've got $10,000 of stock in your car and you go from Target to, let's say, Best Buy, and you go inside and you leave your $10,000 in stock in your car and your car gets broken into, that's business personal property and your personal auto is not going to cover it. So this is something that you can add to your policy to extend to that property in transit. Work comp, any of you have employees? Okay. Work comp is going to help those employees if they get injured on the job. Super, super easy policy. A lot of your states require that you have it, so check your state. But if they're bending over picking up a box and hurt themselves, they trip over something and break their leg, this policy will help pay for that. So we're going to play a little game. What's the worst that could happen? So have you ever said, I don't sell anything risky? I have an LLC, so I don't need insurance. It's not my problem. It's Amazon's. Nothing I sell could ever hurt anyone. Or I don't do private labels, so I don't need insurance. Okay, I hear those all the time. So let's go through a couple examples. Customer purchased a baby bib from Amazon or Etsy. It's that new hip V shape with the Velcro in the back. It's an imported item and it's still branded from the manufacturer. The child is in the high chair playing and the mom runs to take a quick shower. The child gets the bib stuck and the Velcro does not detach from the back and strangles your children. What's the worst that could happen? A, the buyer sues Etsy or Amazon. B, the buyer sues Etsy, Amazon, and the manufacturer. C, the buyer sues Etsy, Amazon, and Velcro. And D, the buyer sues you, Etsy, Velcro, Amazon, and the manufacturer. D. Absolutely. We are going to sue everyone and anyone to see who has the biggest pocketbooks. Next one. You work from home and you have stock or inventory in your home or basement. One of the products starts a fire and you lose your inventory, causing $300,000 worth of damage to your home or office. You don't have insurance. What's the worst that could happen? A, you file a claim with your homeowners and you're out your deductible. B, your mama kicks you out of the house because she said this was a stupid idea anyways. C, you lose all your inventory, have to pull it out of Amazon, have to pay out of pocket for all the inventory and the $300,000. Or D, you just lose your inventory. C, your homeowners is not going to cover it. So you lose all of your inventory. And now since your homeowners doesn't cover it, you're out the $300,000 too. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're going to go to the 3PL in just a second. Well, just because you asked, majority of 3PLs are not covering your business personal property. So unless you can get them to provide you a certificate of insurance, they probably are not covering it. Now, another thing, even if they provide you with a certificate of insurance, let's say they've got $1 million policy. Well, how much product do they have in that 3PL? If they've got $7 million worth of product, you're going to get this much of that check. So I always say, if you have product and a 3PL, add it to your policy, extend the product's coverage to their 3PL, then if there's an issue, your policy can pick it up. Because you never know how much coverage they actually have and how much product they have in there if you're ever going to get what you sent to them. So it's not much more. Business personal property is super, super cheap to add to your policy. It might be $200 or $300 for $100,000 worth of products. So I feel safer when you just extend it because I don't trust the 3PLs. Absolutely, absolutely. So what's the worst that can happen? Your products are shipped to a 3PL or storage facility. Typically, they are at the prep center for a max of 3 days. The center experiences a fire. What's the worst that can happen? We kind of just went through this. We'll go straight to the answer. The answer is D. You lose all of your product. There is no payout since you didn't have the location covered on location. Your box of chargers was determined to be the cause of the fire. Now you're liable for the $500,000 in products in the $1.8 million in the facility. So if your product is determined to be the cause of whatever the issue is, now you're held liable for not only your products, everybody else's products in the entire 3PL facility. So if you didn't have that on your policy, you could be out the $1.8 million. Okay? All right, a couple more coverages. Data breach. Any of you use your own personal websites or taking payment, anything that has customer information? This is something that you can add to your policy. We all have heard this crazy cyber crap going around. This would help pay for attorney fees, court costs, getting people back to normal if they had a data breach. The big one lately is the Target one. Was $39 million is what they ended up settling for, and it came from a very small third-party vendor. It wasn't like a huge vendor who hacked into their system. It was a virus that was on an invoice that ended up going to Target, and they were able to get all of the information. So you don't have to be a huge conglomerate to need the data coverage. Key man policies it's kind of like a life insurance policy. If you've got a partner, a business partner, that you guys rely on each other to make your business go. And if they were to become incapacitated or even die, this would pay you to help hire someone else and allow your business to continue to move forward. So that's a good policy to have too. Cargo insurance, my PL people here, if you're shipping things over from overseas, something happens to the plane, something happens to the boat, your PL product just happens to disappear, this is a policy to help cover those products also. Do what? Yep. Renter's coverage. If you're renting a space, so if you're renting a space to prep in, or you're renting a space to just store in, those kinds of things, again, anything that your products do to damage that property is going to be your responsibility. Everybody know who Jim Cockrum is? Okay. So I was at his conference last year, and I had one of the people in his group, a big person in his group, came to me and was like, I should probably get that insurance. I'm just not ready for it yet. And I was like, you need to get it. You're renting a big space. Something happens, you're going to be reliable for it. And he's like, yeah, I'll get to it sometime. So he calls about 2 months ago. He's like, I should have listened. And I was like, what happened? He said, well, the space that I'm renting, there was a little bit of a water leak in the pipe, and I fixed it. Well, I thought I fixed it. And it ended up leaking, and water got all over his space, all over the space next to him, and all of the space to the back, and caused about $60,000 worth of damage to his client's property, and then he had to pay for all of the water damage to the others. So he's out about $125,000 for just this water leak. And when I quoted him, it was an $1,100 policy. So he could have gotten away with $100 a month and not been out $125,000. Owning prep centers. Any of you guys own a prep center? Looking at owning a prep center? Okay, I'll skip this one then. It's really big right now, so we can talk about it. So frequently asked questions, and then I'll open up for you guys for questions. What's the cost? Everybody will say, what's the cost? It really is hard to sit here and give you a concrete answer, because it really does determine what you're selling, where you're sourcing from, how much your sales are, what state you live in, what your products, if you're PL, what your products are. If you are not PL, you can probably get a policy between $600 and $800 a year. It's super, super cheap. Then, of course, if we add the extra stuff that we've talked about, it's going to be more expensive, but you're talking between $600 and $800 a year. If you are private label, again, it's really determined on what your private label is. I have private labelers at $800 a year. I have private label who has a $40 million contract with Nickelodeon at $30-some thousand a year. It really, again, depends on what your sales are and what your product is. But it is really, really affordable. Items to stay away from. There are some items to stay away from. Anything that goes on the body, in the body, on a pet, in a pet, or for a child is going to be more expensive. If you're just RAOA and wholesale those items, I don't care. That's fine. If you private label any of those items, that's where you're going to look at having the more expensive policy. But those items are the items that sell better on Amazon because nobody wants to touch them, because nobody wants to insure them. So your ROI on those could be a much, much bigger. So look at it that way. Look at your ROI instead of, well, this is going to be a $5,000 insurance policy. Well, maybe it's a $5,000 insurance policy, but you're going to sell $1 million a month of it because nobody else is selling it in that market. So kind of keep that in mind too. States you can get a policy in. I personally am licensed in every single state. If you need help finding a different agent in those states, let me know. But I can definitely help in every single state. Can I get a policy for a new seller? Absolutely. If you are brand new, you absolutely can still get a policy. If you have a storefront or you don't have a storefront, we can still help you. Can I insure my products if I'm an international seller? Anybody else sell on any other platform besides .com? Okay, we'll skip that one then. Yeah. So once you become an international seller, you have to have a policy for each country that you're selling in. So we can get you a policy for the US, and then once you move to like Canada.eu, those types of things, we can get you a separate policy for each of those countries that you're going to be selling in. You have to kind of keep in mind that just because US is sue happy doesn't mean it's going to be as bad across the country. So the policies for international aren't really much more expensive than the US policies because it's harder to collect there and they're not as sue happy. But the like Europeans are buying on the .com websites. So we can always add an international stretch is what it's called. So if you're getting people coming from different countries, we can add that to your policy too. I have an LLC, so I don't need liability insurance. Having an LLC, having a corporation, having some type of structure is amazing. I don't want to say that that's not a good thing to do. It absolutely is a good thing to do. Have your LLC, have your corporation. But your LLC or your corporation is not going to defend you in a lawsuit. So yes, you could fold up shop and leave if you want, but you can't just not show up to court. You still have to hire an attorney. You still have to defend yourself in the lawsuit. So have both. Have your corporate structure and have your policy to help pay those attorney fees. Canada, we're licensed in Canada now. Woo-hoo. So if you're selling on .ca, we can help you there too. So the risky list. I kind of went through a lot of these. You can go through them too. Like I said, children's, anything with children, and private label sucks to get insurance for. I definitely make my money's worth there, working my butt off for those. Anything in the healthcare, anything type of power tools, perishables, consumables, again, anything that goes on the body or in the body. But if you're RAOA and wholesale, this list doesn't matter to you. And kind of to explain that, when I look at your products, I look at who's going to be responsible in the end. And if you're reselling somebody else's products, I know I'm going to be able to go back to them. So if somebody gets hurt on a Johnson & Johnson product, I know we're going to go back to Johnson & Johnson, and Johnson & Johnson's going to pay for it. That we're going to be out the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 to defend them. But your private label, as soon as you stick your brand on that product, you are taking responsibility for that product from that moment on. So any type of private label, your risk is higher because you are now the sole responsible person for that product. So if you had a pin from BIC and a pin from Ashlin Hadden Insurance, that BIC pin, I'm going back to BIC. If it's Ashlin Hadden Insurance, it's Ashlin Hadden Insurance's policy that's going to pay for that. Nope. Correct. Because now you are saying that this is my product, this is my brand. Even if you go on and you put a listing up and you're branding that listing as yourself, even if you're selling the BIC pin with the BIC name on it, but you branded that listing as you could still be held responsible for that because you're saying that this is my product. Correct. Exactly. Yeah, so when you bundle, if you leave the bundle in its original condition, in its original packaging, and you just put it in a box, then that is not private label, it's not considered manufacturing. If you take 4 items, like let's say it was, you bought this from the store with 4 BIC pins in it, and you took the 4 BIC pins out and you put 1 in each box, you just private labeled it. Make sense? Okay. So now what? Well, I'll open it for questions. Like I said, I own the insurance agency. I've got a team of 4 girls now behind us. We're licensed in every single state. We can help in every single country now, even Canada. Easiest thing to do, the process is head to the website, ecom.insure. There's an apply now section. You can fill out your information. We'll send you the application. Or I do have a booth inside. I have applications there. Or you can, give me your email address and I can email the application too. So I will open it up for questions, and since there's like just a few of us, we probably don't need a mic.
I think it's really just a picture.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
I just needed the table, really. I was going to sit up front. So a question about the state, like location.
Yeah.
Is it where my LLC is, or is it where my warehouse is? Because those are 2 different states.
Good question. So it's where you're registered as your LLC. If you have multiple LLCs, then you would have to have multiple policies. So we're insuring your business as a whole, not just your Amazon business. So a lot of people have like a really risky private label product, and then they have a bunch of RA, OA, and some like very small, non-risky products. I always say divide those 2 into 2 LLCs. So when you get a policy, you're getting a policy based on what your products are and what your sales are. And if you've got $1 million in sales, but only 10,000 of it is that really risky product, you're paying for all $1 million of that product. So pull those apart. Make a policy for your unrisky products. Make a policy for an LLC for your unrisky products. Make an LLC for your risky products. Divide those out, and it's going to save you in the long run. Of course, talk to your CPA accountant. And in the back, make sure that that's how she likes it.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really important to not mix. Oh. I would like to add to that. It's really important not to blend business and personal. If you go to all the trouble to get an LLC, as you know, that's not a bulletproof thing. And the first thing that can cause issues is if you have blended business and personal transactions in the bank account associated with the LLC. Because it's a separate
corporate veil, right?
Yeah, exactly. Pierce the corporate veil. It's a separate tax entity, and it needs to be standalone, and that goes along with what you are saying.
Yeah.
So, and I have a question too. Is that
Sure.
okay? What if someone has a claim? What kind of support do you give, or what happens?
Yeah, good question. So if you're insured with me, I am the broker, so you stay with me. So you never lose me. Now, I place you with one of 30-some companies. So when you have a claim, your first call is to me and say, hey, Ashlin, this is what's going on. And I'll give you advice. Like, if it's a $500 issue, I'm going to tell you, cut the check and move on. It's not worth filing a claim. It's not worth having the issues. But if it's something of significance, then we start the process with the carrier. So I call the carrier, let them know, hey, we've got a claim. They reach out to you and say, okay, what's going on? Those kinds of things. So then they kind of handle it from there. But then I'm involved through the whole entire process. Me or my team members are involved in the entire process. Every one of my contracts is with a top-rated insurance company, so I'm not going after the crap insurance companies. We've got the Liberty Mutuals, the Safecos, the Hartfords, the Travelers. These are all 5-star companies who have great claims experience. So the 2 that we've done in the last 15 months that I've shared with you have been by far the smoothest transactions that I've ever seen. And that's coming from like homeowners and auto insurance where like everything seems to get screwed up. So I just go into this like, okay, this is gonna be really shitty. How's this gonna work? And in Hartford had both of them. And it was just a very smooth transaction. And they were dropped, we got their names dropped within weeks. So the stress is on us, not on you. If you didn't have the insurance policy, you're looking for the attorney. You're hiring, you're paying the retainer, you're trying to defend yourself. When you have an insurance policy, you pick up the phone and we handle it from there. Now we're gonna call you and ask questions and ask what's going on and that kind of stuff. But other than that, we take care of it from there.
So to piggyback on what she asked
Yeah.
you, I do a pretty good sized RA business and I'm starting to work on private label.
Okay.
My liability carrier has told me they won't insure private label. Do I have to get a separate LLC to get the separate policy?
No, so we can do that. If you're happy with where you're at now and you want to leave your RAOA business there, you're more than welcome to, but then you would have to open that separate LLC to do your private label. So you can't have two policies to cover one LLC. You would
that's
need
what
those
I'm
two.
asking.
Yep.
Okay.
But we do this all the time. We have RAOA, wholesale, and private labelers all covered under one policy. So if it's one LLC, I suggest you move away from that carrier since they won't grow with you, and do one policy with a carrier who knows what you're doing and know how to grow along with you. And that's
Okay,
the
thanks.
Hartfords and the Travelers and Safeco's. Where are you with now? Do you know what carrier? Okay. Okay. Get hold of me when we're done.
So I have a policy, but I haven't looked at it in 2 years, and I'm pretty sure it's not great. And they have not.
At least you have something. That's good.
But I don't know I'm just being ignorant. Like I haven't even looked to see what it covers and whatever. So that prompts this question: how often do you update? My sales. Like if you were just going to launch your new private label, what your sales are now, let's say that goes well, next quarter, there's going to be a different level of sales, and isn't it based on
Absolutely.
sales? And so how often do you?
Once a year. So we send an audit once a year, and we're looking for what your sales increase are. So of course, the more sales you have, the more expensive it is. But we need to know actual sales, because if there's a claim, they're going to ask for that information, and if you lied or under-exaggerated a little, they're going to start questioning that. So once a year we send an audit. But if you're doing private label, so my favorite clients are the ones who start RAOA and they're like, okay, I really would like to get into the private label. I always say, check with me first. Say, Ashlin, this is the product I'm looking at getting into. What do you think? Send me a link to a competitor's site and say, this is what I'm looking at. I'll tell you straight up, I'm a very honest person. This is bullshit, don't do it. It's gonna cost you too much money. Or yeah, I think this is okay. Or you better be really good on your ROI. So let me know those things as you're moving forward. Once you have a policy, if you add more private label products, you have to let me know. I can't read your mind. I can't look through everybody's storefronts. So if you are changing products and adding private label, I need to know. If you add 10,000 SKUs on RAOA wholesale, I don't care. I really don't. We'll audit those once a year and I'll look at those then. But let's say we're doing chocolate bars, and I do a red chocolate bar and a green chocolate bar. I don't need to know every time you just change a color or a pattern. But if you go from a chocolate bar to a cell phone, I need to know. And it's just a quick email. Hey, Ashlin, I'm private labeling this now. My estimated sales are going to be $100,000 for the first year. Boom. I shoot it over to the carrier. They say it's $23 more a year. I let you know, and you're done. So it's a quick, easy process. Go ahead. We have 5 minutes. Oh.
Do you offer suspension insurance? And if not, will you recommend somebody or not?
So I am the creator of the first suspension policy. There was some issues with it, and I stopped endorsing it. There is a competitor out there that is selling it. It is the exact same policy that we created a year ago. So I am, of course, not recommending that. There is another insurance carrier coming out with a suspension policy. I have not read all the fine print, but we have had many conversations, and I do see the benefits of it, but I'm not endorsing it yet. So stay tuned. I want to be darn sure that it's before I say anything. Anything else? You guys have been good for small. That's great. I love the questions. Anything, I'm on Facebook all the time, Facebook friend me. I'm you know, if you've got questions or, hey, Ashlin, I forgot about this, or what about, could I do this or that? Commercial auto is something else I didn't talk about. If you guys are using your personal vehicle for business use, you need a commercial auto policy. I'm on, like I said, on Facebook all the time. Ping me. I'm looking at this private label product. What do you think? Anything like that. So my email's up there. My Facebook is up there. Website's up there. You'll see all of the different different policies that we offer. So we're one-stop shop for all your e-commerce insurance needs. So anything else, let me know. All right. Thanks, guys.